My name is Kristen Higgins. With me is Jeremy Mackling from PCL Construction. I'm with the state of Vermont. We also have a resident engineer from the state of Vermont here, and Jill Barrett, our project outreach coordinator. This is going to give you an overview of the project and give you some information on what's coming, and then open it up for questions. Like I said, we've got the contractor here, the state here, so you can ask all the questions you want, and we'll have the answers for you. So the meeting outline, first I'm going to talk about the Hartford project planning, the overview on how we got here, the project construction, how we're going to build the project, our traffic management. Obviously, if you've come through White River Junction, you've seen that we've started implementing that. The construction schedule, that's new. If anybody was here for the first presentation, we didn't have a construction schedule, and now we do. Some project outreach coordination, what Jill's going to be doing over the next few months to keep everybody informed. And then, like I said, we'll open it up for questions. So the Hartford, it's the two bridges over the interstate. It's located on Interstate 91. It's just north of Exit 11. I'm sure most of you know what it is. If you're here thinking it's a different bridge, you're at the wrong meeting. But it's over US 5, and it's located in a fairly high traffic area. Here's the overview. You can see the McDonald's, the VA hospital, and some hotels here, and there's our project location. The existing bridges are in pretty bad condition. They were built back in the 60s, and this connection right here is called suspended span construction, and over time it's deteriorated. And when the state, you probably have seen some maintenance activities over the years, we keep having to go in there and replace it. The problem with this connection is considered fracture critical, and we're in a major effort now to get these types of bridges off the interstate. What that means, if anything happens here, it could compromise the bridge could close, or we could have an incident. So back in 2012, we programmed the project, and we did an expedited project delivery to get this project out. And we started construction this April. What we're going to do is we're going to install some wider bridges. Those are going to be safer for the traveling public, and from our point of view, they're better for us with maintenance. A little wider, we can maintain the bridges and keep traffic flowing. So this is our northbound bridge on Interstate I-91. Currently, it's 37'3". It's basic 12-foot lanes, and the future bridge is going to have a wider shoulder here. You can see 16 feet. So, this is the area where we can, stage for work or shift traffic when we're doing work on the future bridge over time. Our bridges are expected to last 80 to 100 years, so the likelihood of us being up on the bridge doing something over time definitely is a possibility. Southbound bridge currently is 42 feet, and again, we're just going to widen it a little bit to get that extra shoulder width in there so that we can get up in there and maintain it safely. We're going with what we call single span structures. Right now, the bridges, there's piers, they're called three-span structures, so we're going to go with a single span structure. And that's good because it eliminates the two piers, and we have reduced maintenance on those. And this is just an overview of how the bridges will exist. And looking down, they'll be pretty much the same as what you see now. But on Route 5, you won't see the piers anymore. We're also, while we're here, going to do some Route 5 improvements. The town of Hartford has a plan in place to add a sidewalk and some bike lanes. In fact, they're working with the agency right now to deliver that project. So with our project, we're setting them up for that and doing a couple of things to help get that project going. One of the things we're going to do is we're going to eliminate one of the on-ramps to Interstate 91 South that was identified in the Hartford town plan as desirable for moving pedestrians and bicyclists through Route 5 safely, and it takes care, kind of reduces the likelihood of a crash at that V, and I'll show you right here. This is the ramp, and this area right here is problematic from a safety point of view. And then it just is another place for pedestrians or bicyclists to cross. So we're going to end up removing this ramp at the end of the project, and this will all be grass. And then there'll be a right-hand turn lane to make that. And again, that was identified in the town of Hartford plan for Route 5. Like I said, the right-hand turn lane will facilitate that turn onto I-91 South. and that's what it will look like. So this is pretty much our finished condition. These islands will be returned to grass as they are now. If you've come through the project, you see that the islands have been removed. In the end, they'll be put back again. So this is really the only difference. The slip ramp is gone and a new turning lane added. Some of the project challenges. Obviously, we're in a very high traffic area here in Vermont. We have about as much traffic going under the bridges as we do going over the bridges. So we've had to get really creative with how we build the bridge, how we maintain traffic, just to make sure that everybody can get to where they need to go. So we'll talk a little bit about Route 5 traffic through the project. Traffic has already been reduced to 2 lanes through the project. It's pretty much a work in progress, but we've finished that up today. We removed the raised islands just north of the bridges, and again, those will be reconstructed at the end of the project. And we're going to transition the 2 lanes to 1 lane on Route 5 south. And that's coming from Sykes Avenue right to the I-91 north ramp. And you can see, if you've been through there, that they've put some barrels up and started to direct the traffic through there. In its condition through the summer, Route 5 will be a single lane in both directions through the project area. And that's really for the contractor to have room to do the work that they need to do to make the new bridge. We also recognize, even though there wasn't a sidewalk, that pedestrians do use this road a lot to get to the VA or to get to McDonald's. There was a worn path behind the guardrail. That was a pretty good indicator. So we asked the contractor to construct a pedestrian passage, which is in operation right now. And that will be signed. It'll be obvious that that's where pedestrians should be going to get through the project area safely. So this is an overview of the construction condition of the new lane configuration. You can see, if you've come through, that we've got lights, but the traffic is being channeled down into 1 lane in this direction, and then 1 lane in this direction. What's not shown here is the pedestrian walkway, but you'll see that on the next slide. We also just activated a signal today at the end of this off-ramp and closed off this ramp. The reason we wanted to close this is it just gets too complicated having cars at both intersections when you're in a construction zone, especially with these vehicles channeling. So we reconfigured the intersection. And again, those were activated today. This is a view if you were looking down the street or driving your car. So here's the pedestrian walkway we were talking about, and that's in place so that folks can walk. We actually have some screening up on both sides of this so that kind of shields people from the view. So you'll have a car in each direction. And you can see, we've got a pretty good work area for the contractor. So, we want them to have enough room to get the bridge supports in safely and quickly so that we can go on our way. At the south side of the project, we put another light here, really just to control the flow of vehicles through the work zone, keep the speeds low, and keep people getting to where they go safely. We're going to use a technique called accelerated bridge construction to build these 2 bridges. Generally, a project like this would take 2 summers. We would do 1 bridge 1 summer with crossovers and then do another bridge the next summer. So we're using accelerated bridge construction, a technique called slide-in bridge construction, and I'll get more specific on what that means. But we have to construct these new abutments that support the bridge under the existing bridges. So it gets a little complicated, but pretty much stays out of people's way. This is what it looks like. So this summer, what you'll see for the next few months is you'll see a lot of activity under the bridges, and what they're doing is preparing to build these supports for the bridge underneath. So we needed a special contractor for that because there's not very much room under there. So we actually worked with PCL during the design phase. We brought them into our office. We worked with them in a process called Construction Manager General Contractor, where we hire them to come and work out details with us on a plan so that we make sure that we have a constructible project. And then in the end, we enter into a contract with the same contractor who was with us when designed to build the project. So it's an efficient way to deliver a project and make sure that you've got a bridge that can be built. So all while this is going on, we're going to be constructing the new bridges right next to the existing bridges, and we're going to have to do that on these temporary supports. So in a few weeks, and we'll get into the schedule, you'll see them starting to work on these supports next to the bridges. So in case you're wondering, it's a temporary location. And it's going to kind of look like this. And this is a rendering, but you can see the traffic pattern. We got the 2 lanes. But here's where they're building. These are the new beams. So they'll build the entire bridge, beams, the deck, the riding surface, the railing, all over here, outside of traffic, while traffic is maintained on the interstate freely. A little, congested under here, but like I said, our goal is to keep traffic flowing as best we can through the construction zone. Once we have the bridges complete, we're going to activate the I-91 Northbound Detour, and we're going to close that bridge to take it down and slide the new bridge into place. And we're going to do that over the course of 1 weekend, and we're going to start that at 6 o'clock that Friday night. And the northbound is easy, because what we're going to do is we're going to take the folks off and put them right back on. So,
Sounds easy.
see? And you're worried. No. So they get off and get on. So this area will be configured a little bit different when we activate that northbound detour. But basically, the light will be the same. We'll have traffic officers available to direct traffic when necessary. And if it ends up that we have a traffic officer out there all weekend, that's what we do, just to keep the traffic moving and traffic flowing. So those heading for I-89 heading for I-91 North, what we did is and I don't know if you've come through 89, but we have these alternate routes to 91. And the reason we have that is on the weekends when we're closing this, we want to encourage folks to avoid the site completely and go off exit 1 and come around and get on at exit 12. If we can get the word out, and I hope everybody here gets the word out, maybe the weekend that we're closing this bridge, you might want to take a different route to avoid the site. Or if there's some construction going on here, you might want to take the different route to avoid the site. So we've gone to a great deal of effort to put some signs in place that would help guide people away from the site but still get them to their destination fairly quickly. Once we activate that detour, the first order of business will be to demolish the existing bridge. During that weekend, any of the pedestrians will have to be rerouted. They won't be able to be maintained through that construction zone. It will be too dangerous. And we don't want anybody walking under there in case something fell. And that's what that looks like. And you can see the bridges now are in place, just waiting to be slid in, so they can take these bridges down. And then we're going to slide the new bridge right into place. And I'll let the contractor talk a little bit about, when we go through the schedule, about how long that takes and what to expect and what things will look like. And again, I encourage you to ask a lot of questions. We have guys in the back that can answer anything. But this is what it looks like. They slide it right on beams with jacks, and they move it slowly into place onto these abutments. Remember I showed you that they were built underneath the existing bridge? Well, they're built right to the elevation that we need to slide the bridge onto it. Once that's complete, there's a bunch of work to do with putting backfill in and completing the approaches. Actually, there's quite a bit of work there. And then we open the bridge and let people go. And that's supposed to happen on Monday at 6 a.m. And Route 5 under the bridges will be open, but there will be major delays on the days of the slide, the weekends of the slide. So again, we'll be out again right before this happens, but we will encourage folks to try to seek an alternate route on those weekends, because you're likely going to be waiting in a line a lot that weekend to go through, because they can't demolish a bridge, they can't pick up anything with traffic going under the bridge. So each time they pick up a beam or some concrete, they have to stop the traffic in both directions, move it, and then let the traffic go. So you can imagine that that's not a very quick process. And then the same thing with moving a bridge. It doesn't move very fast, but as soon as it starts to move, traffic has to stop on both sides. So if you don't want to stop, then you got to get folks to just take an alternate route. So like I said, after the bridges are slid, we do some approach work and some paving. And then for the southbound bridge, which is going to be the next weekend, we do the same thing, only it's a different detour. This detour is a little bit more extensive because there was no easy way to get through that intersection. So the folks will get off at the exit 11 and then take Route 5 all the way down to Heartland if you're going straight through on 91. Now, probably everybody in this room knows that you could probably get on 89 and then come back and hop on 91. So there's lots of ways to get to 91, but for the truckers, this is the easiest route. It's a U.S. route, so it's appropriate for trucks, and so this will be the signed detour. And again, we'll have the the detour signs to get to 89, like we had for the northbound. So the I-91 southbound detour to I-89, because generally you'd have to go over that bridge to hit the interchange to get on 89. That will be signed, and again, this will be it'll be an official detour, so it won't say alternate route. This will be the route to 89, and it will be down Route 5, over to 4, and then on the Quechee exit. And all those signs are in place now, and we'll use that. So in the end, this is our final condition. Again, you can see the abutments in the new bridge, and those piers are all gone, leaving a lot of room for the town of Hartford to come in and add their sidewalks and their bike lane without any interference from those shoulder piers, as an easier structure to maintain, and nice and wide. So in the planning phase, we had to come up with all of our what-if scenarios because we just want to have plans in place for when things happen. So our first what-if was, what if something happens at the bridge site and Route 5 is forced to close, during the demolition or something, something happens and traffic can't get through. Well, we will reroute the traffic around the bridges using these uniformed traffic officers who we will have on site during the closure weekends. I think we have 6 of them lined up. And those traffic officers will be stationed at intersections, Sykes Avenue, and they will bring traffic around the VA cutoff route, to avoid the site. So that's how we've planned for that. And here's what it looks like. Sykes Avenue is like right here. It's not showing, but you come out here and just take the VA cutoff road right around. There's the hospital. So it doesn't add much time, and it clears the site and allows us to fix whatever happened and get the traffic going again. So then we had another what if, because on that northbound detour, it's one lane of traffic off the ramp and then back on a ramp. So what happens if somebody breaks down in the middle of the road and nobody can pass anymore, or there's an accident on that, a fender bender or whatever? What do we do? Because traffic will back up. Well, we've got in the contract that we would have a tow truck stationed in the median during the northbound closure, that if anything happens, they can hook up and pull the vehicles out of the travel way so that traffic will continue to flow during that weekend. So our maintenance of traffic summary is we want to maintain traffic through the construction site on US 5 as best we can at all times. But we do have to reduce it to the 2 lanes along Route 5 through the duration of the summer to give the contractor room to work. We construct a pedestrian walkway to keep those folks safe. And we're going to count on using the VA cutoff road in case of an unexpected emergency, and that plan's in place. We're also going to use message boards on the highway to divert traffic away from exit 11. So I don't know if you've noticed that, but there's a lot of those big message boards going up. And they're all hooked up to talk to each other, and we can program messages based on things that are happening on the project. And our goal is to limit the traffic delays. You know, we're not going to say there's not going to be any, but we're going to do whatever we can to limit them, and then we're going to do whatever we can to inform you, gee, you know, probably going to be some today or tonight. So, you know, Jill will, if you sign up for the email, will send you the email saying this is what's going on next week, and you know, you can do your personal planning. So how are we going to limit the traffic delays? Well, we said, you know, we really can't have any flagging operations or lane reductions on Route 5 alternating between 6 a.m. and 9 a.m. That's the early morning commute. You know, that off-ramp on 91's very crowded. The intersection's a little bit crazy during that time, so we said, you know what, let's just not have any flagging or one-lane traffic during that time, and then the same goes for the evening commute. You know, we'll take those right off the book. But then during the day, you know, the contractor's free to do, you know, use the flaggers to do alternating traffic. And those delays could last up to 10 minutes. So again, you know, you want to plan accordingly. If you don't want to wait, then, you know, you would just drive around. Probably not going to be a whole lot of that, but it definitely does exist, and Jill will do the best to inform you of certain operations that are coming that, you know, lend themselves to a longer delay. And then we have, you know, much more major delays, and we say, you know what, we'll let that happen at nighttime when there's just not that many vehicles on the road. Things like when they set those beams that I showed you on the temporary supports. There's a handful of activities, and Jeremy will get into that, you know, that we just can't do when there's a lot of traffic and expect that there's not going to be delays. So we have a light system set up, and those will occur at night. And again, Jill, every week, and I don't know who's on her distribution tonight, but sends out a report that says, here's what's coming up next week. So when she sends out the report that says they're going to be setting girders on Tuesday night, then you're going to know that there's a high likelihood that you'd be stopped by a flagger while they set a girder, because again, they can't let traffic move if there's anything moving overhead. It's not safe. And just to recap the bridge construction summary, we're going to use accelerated bridge construction called slide-in bridge construction. We've had a couple articles hit the news recently. I just saw that we are published in Indiana. So definitely getting around there. Both bridges will be replaced in one construction season. So again, different, because we would have taken us 2, and we would have had traffic impacted on Route 5 for 2 summers. Because no matter what, we're still going to have to be down along Route 5 building some structures. Again, we're going to build the new bridges, abutments under the existing, and then the new superstructures next to the existing. And we're going to close both bridges for 1 weekend each, Friday to a Monday, and we're going to slide those bridges into place, just like that. Complete approach work, open I-91, and then we're going to restore Route 5 to what it was. With that, I'm going to ask Jeremy to go over the schedule. If you want to use the clicker.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Jeremy Mackling with PCL, over the contractor working on the project. So I'll go over the construction schedule with you here and take any questions you have later. As you probably noticed, we started construction March 23rd, about 2 weeks ago. Mostly with realigning US 5, doing some striping, putting in traffic signals. You noticed probably yesterday and today replacing barrier wall, and we've activated those signals, and we're now in the configuration that we'll be in for the next 6 to 7 months, which will allow us to do the work behind the barrier wall so our folks can be safe, and also keep traffic safe in a consistent pattern that once you learn it, you'll know it and you'll love it, hopefully, for 7 months. First thing we did early in March, actually even prior to March 23rd, was out on I-91 and in various locations was the Smart Work Zone devices that communicate to traffic and gather information, and like Kristen said, talk to each other. So V-Trans can put up different alerts should that information need to be communicated to the traveling public. Then we got started on our traffic control on US 5. So this is an overview of where those smart work zone devices are. If you've seen them, you probably have read them, and if everything goes well, you're not ever going to have to see an important message that is going to divert your attention to where you want to go.
Those sensors, what they do is, if the traffic backs up on any of those ramps, they will automatically send a message, that message board back on 89, telling people to use exit 1 in Queechee to bypass the site. So we don't even have to tell it to. Those sensors will do it. So, you know the ramp I'm talking about, you get off and go on to exit 11, it starts to go too slow on that ramp, that message board's gonna light up and say, use exit 1 for 91 North. People will stop going there till it clears, and then it'll set back to have a nice day.
But we also got one up on I-91, or I-89 southbound, just north of exit 1, that will also light up, and it'll get that traffic off and have them go the alternate route.
Right. All in an effort to keep that, where they converge and it's scary anyways, keep that clear and safe, so.
Yeah, and during the closure periods, like the northbound closure, we'll have those message boards up, and we'll have the alternate route going for all 89 traffic that wants to go 91 north.
Yeah. Just to encourage people to avoid that.
Yeah, and we got the signs up now, so if we do have a backup on that ramp, it can be kicked on.
I think this was a little more to what you guys were talking about. This is some snapshots of the images that these cameras can capture and help communicate what's going on.
Right. This is a public feed. This is right at the intersection of exit 11 and Route 5. And you can see that they're working. And then this is the ramp coming on from 89 onto 91. So you could get on there and look at that. It's right off our website. You just click it, and you can see live streaming all day, and we can kind of see, that's what we were watching today, seeing how the signals are working and how things are going there. And again, this is just about the sensors, and this is the kind of data that comes off the sensor, and then it's those signs that say, use I-89 exit 1 Woodstock for alternate route. So that'll automatically trigger on if speeds on that ramp get to a certain speed. That's why it's smart. It's a smart work zone.
This is also work that's already been completed. We installed the traffic signals and reconfigured US 5, which was completed today. So we're in the pattern that you'll get familiar with for the next 7 months. I think we were discussing with some of the folks as they came in, but one of the things that is important to maybe note is coming off of the ramp C there, which is I-91 exit 11, getting onto US 5, technically northbound, which to me feels eastbound, but you're turning right there, heading past McDonald's and Sykes Avenue. Anyways, now that there's a signal there, you're used to being able to just go straight through freely because there's a dedicated lane. You're still allowed to do that after a stop. So there's a sign up there that says right turn allowed after a stop. The driver could be confused because it's more of a straight through than it is a right turn, but that is what is intended to be there. The right lane is dedicated to the folks still that are going through, making a soft right onto US 5 North.
It's a real soft right, but it's the only way we could legally allow that to happen. And based on what we've seen out there with the traffic backup, just with flaggers and what the phases were going to be in the signals, we were worried that we were going to back it up on the interstate. So this is how we kind of fixed it, hopefully. That once people get used to stopping and then looking around and then going, it'll keep that through lane going straight, flowing. So what we'll be doing the next 3 weeks or so is excavating to
work on the foundations at all 4 abutments in behind the barrier wall. And then following that, or during the same time period as we get excavation done, is we'll be installing the foundations. There's micropile that go in at 3 of the 4 locations, and then one of the locations where that rock outcrop is, you guys probably noticed, that footing will be placed on the rock, as opposed to requiring piling into the ground. We'll continue with working on the abutments coming up out of the ground. That'll last us until June. We'll also, in early May, start working on the superstructure, where we'll be working adjacent to I-91, as Kristen mentioned, putting our false work pads, some crane mats, building false work towers, putting our slide beams up, so we can then erect our girders and build the new deck adjacent to the existing. We'll start that in early May. As I spoke about there, the whole process of building a bridge is still somewhat the same, except we're going to be placing the girders and the deck and the barrier wall and everything on top of the temporary false work system, as opposed to putting it in on top of the permanent abutments. But the sequence is generally the same, and that'll be June and July. It'll also go into August for the barrier wall, and allowing the proper cure times and whatnot for the concrete before we perform the slides. The slides are planned for the last 2 weekends in August, prior to Labor Day. As Kristen mentioned, I-91 northbound will be the first one. It's got the easier detour for traffic. We'll do that on that Friday evening to the following Monday. So there we go. If you want to mark it on your calendars, that's what everyone involved in this project is seriously working towards to achieve. Whether it be V-Trans, the inspection team, PCL, all of our subcontractors, we're extremely dedicated to trying to make this happen. There's a lot of work that needs to occur in one summer session, as Kristen talked about. Typically, this would take two seasons to perform, but it is an accelerated project, so everyone's best attention is focused on this. The second weekend southbound, like we talked about, would be the following weekend. Now, it's not just the weekends. I-91 will be closed during the weekend, but for example, when we're working on the northbound structure, I-91 will be closed from 6 p.m. Friday to 6 a.m. Monday. You'll come down the ramp, go through that intersection and get back on. But also I-91 southbound will be limited to 1 lane approximately from Friday evening to Sunday morning. That's because as we're demoing the existing bridge, we will swing around 180 degrees and set down the pieces of concrete or the girder or whatever that we're doing to truck it off. So we'll need one of those 2 lanes to perform some of our work. So just a heads up on that, that'll occur as well, but traffic will still be allowed on the opposite bridge. It just might be down to 1 lane. US 5 for the entire project, I don't know if you guys have picked up on this or not, but is open for the entire duration of the project. Performing a job like this, certainly the way would have been done years ago, is you might reroute traffic completely. And I've worked on multiple jobs. One job had a 6-month closure of the road. Other times there's 30-day closures. Sometimes there's 7-day closures. Here, V-Trans has worked very hard to not close US 5 at all, but you will have those impacts when we're performing some kind of function over the road where it's not safe or legal to have anyone underneath the moving object, that will have intermittent stoppages of traffic. 10 minutes during the day, 20 minutes at night. So if you really think about what's being accomplished, it's actually pretty amazing that US 5 won't be closed, is not planned to be closed at all. Should whatever, we talked about all these what-if scenarios if an accident occurs or something like that. There's these alternate routes and whatnot, but at this time, it's not planned to be closed. So anyways, mark it on your calendar, August 21st and 28th. You can believe you me that it's marked in large red lettering on our calendar, so we're working hard to accomplish it. After the closure, September and October, we'll still have activities going on. We'll need to take down the existing columns that the previous bridge sat upon, and also portions of those footings to allow the ultimate planning for the city of Hartford that Kristen talked about, and the wide spaces that will be available for whatever the town of Hartford does in the future with that space. We'll remove the temporary support towers. We'll remove that slip lane that we talked about and seed that area. There's also a water line that the city installed a bypass last fall that tomorrow they'll go ahead and activate. So when we're working on our foundations, should that water line conflict with either our new foundations or any of our work, we actually can remove that and restore it before we leave. Later in the year, we'll obviously return US5 to final configuration patterns, basically undoing mostly what we've done the first 2.5 weeks thus far. Final pavement markings, we'll restore the medians, we'll remove the traffic signals, and we'll restore all of our staging areas in the 4 quadrants. And the project is planned to be completed by October 30th, so again, 1 summer session. And I think this is now just the folks that you can contact.
Yeah, I'd like to
Going
introduce Jill.
Get some lights on in here, huh? Maybe?
So
Yes.
I'll have the rest of the team stand up and say that this is Jill.
I'm
and
Jill
she's-
Barrett. I have been communicating with many of you by email, and if I haven't been communicating with you, I should be. So I hope you put your name and email address when you came in. We have prepared we have fact sheets, and there are surplus fact sheets, so if you want to take some more when you leave, please do that. Because there'll be a lot more useful out in the community than in my bag. So just help yourself to them. I will be writing once a week, maybe more frequently if there's something that's really important to get out to you. And that will occur throughout the construction season. There is a website address. It's in my computer's memory because I would never remember what it is, but it is there. You can get to it if you forget it and you lose your paper. Just go on to VTrans and projects. And this website, because it's such a big project and such an important project, this website will pop out at you. And as was mentioned before, the live video recording that's going on 24 hours a day is accessible on the website. So if you're making a trip this way and you want to see what the traffic is like, just go online, and hopefully it'll still look like that when you get here. But please avail yourself of that feature, because they really are trying to have a smart work zone and to communicate out to as many people as possible. So thank you for coming. Also, Michael Levine is working with us, so I wanted to introduce Michael. He saw you on the way in.
So then if Ron could stand up, this is the superintendent for the project, so he's working on the project. You'll see him out there. And then Chris Barker and his staff, Nate, they're the resident engineer for the state of Vermont, so they're overseeing if you can always reach out to any one of these people. They're very accessible. The offices, what's the name of that plaza?
Junction Marketplace.
Junction Marketplace. Chris has an office there. These folks have an office here. You probably don't want to go there for lunch, but and I think we gave phone numbers if you wanted to ask a question. But they'll be here all summer and be acclimated into the community. With that, if anybody has questions, we're all here to answer. Yes.
You said that night work starts on August 25th. Will there be any night work before then?
Yes, there'll be, good question. The month of June, we'll have a fair bit of night work. That's when we'll be setting girders. We'll also be setting our precast deck panels. That's basically when we will go from, prior to that, we'll be building vertically out of the ground in our quadrants. But once we have to start spanning over the road, that's when, we're setting girders or deck panels or doing anything in this direction, that when we're physically over those lanes, that we'll either have intermittent stoppages of traffic during the day, or if the activity takes long enough, we'll just go ahead and do it at night. You'll look for that certainly come June.
But you'll also have your deck pours, your barrier
There's
pours,
deck pours, barrier
your
pours.
approach slab pours.
Regarding the 2 closure weekends, the actual closure of, let's say, I-91 northbound starts at 6 p.m. Friday, but there's work that occurs that leads up to that, actually 3 days prior. So for instance, that Monday or Tuesday of that week, we'll be out there at night milling off the existing asphalt on the deck surfaces, because the recycler won't take the concrete with the asphalt. We have to separate it one way or another. Anyways, so we will do it in advance of that closure weekend. So we'll do that one night. And then 48 hours prior to the closure weekend, so say Wednesday at 6 p.m., we're allowed to take 1 lane of the 2 lanes to start performing some of this demo work. So we'll actually place barrier wall on the left-hand side of the lane, and so I-91 will have only 1 lane of traffic northbound that Wednesday evening, Thursday evening, Friday day, prior to the closure, where then no lanes will be there allowed for the 6 p.m. Friday to 6 a.m. Monday. So there are
Right, and Jill
planned
will know them.
other, yes. So for those that are on the email outreach that Jill does, I get that every week. We actually provide her that information by noon on Thursdays, so she can communicate with the folks that are interested about what's going to occur the next week. So that's a good way to get that information where, hey, next week we're going to start redoing these activities. These are the kind of things you can look for.
I'm with the Hartford Garden Friends, and we had that rock garden here, which we thankfully have to save.
Mhm.
I'm just trying to figure out when to tell the person that takes care of that to stay away.
Yeah. We'll just come to our office and
I'll make sure she's on
let's,
the email
yeah,
list,
just
too.
get on the email or come see us. You now know Ron and myself. You're welcome to come talk to us, and we'll communicate to you what's going on. I mean, there's going to be work going on there for the next 8 months.
Right.
So I think what you're saying is you want to get the individual wants to get in there and play with the flowers or do some planting or seeding or something across the next 8 months. We probably should discuss that, because they will need to come to our office first, and we'll have to safely let them access that area, because right now it is in a active work site, so we don't want just anybody.
I think she'll probably be there weekends and nights.
Okay. Well, let's figure out specifically who that is. Let's talk with them and make sure they have safe access. Okay.
Are you planning to work 7 days a week?
We're planning to work 6 days a week, and Sundays if necessary. Same thing with nights. If you guys have seen construction in your life, you know that stuff occurs, weather occurs, unforeseen conditions occur, changes occur, and construction projects almost always elongate. This one's not allowed to do that. So if something occurs unplanned, bad weather, something we just didn't expect, something takes longer, we're going to be utilizing our nights and our weekends, because we can't do what we want to do in December. It needs to be done in October, or it's going to be 2 summer sessions, and that's not good for you folks, and it's not good for us. So Right now, it is an aggressive schedule, and we haven't worked really out in the field 6 days yet, but starting this week, now that we can work in behind the barrier wall, it is planned to mostly work 6 days a week.
They were waiting for the snow to,
Yeah.
they're from Florida, so they,
Yeah, no.
Um,
We had to wait, the asphalt plant went open till 2 days yesterday.
So, I have a question. You were talking about rerouting the traffic down the VA Park Road, not line Indigo 5. What about the businesses there, like the motels and mob service center?
right.
Will
That-
we be allowed to go through them?
Yeah, I mean, that is only in case of a mishap. So the normal business will just be take Route 5. So in the event that something happens and you physically can't get through it, then everybody would have to go around. But, that's just, we're calling that an emergency. Don't want that to happen.
Right, but I guess I'm trying to say, if I have to get to work and I work on Ballard Vale Drive and I'm not allowed to get there, obviously we'd have to notify our employees that they can't get there.
Right, they'd have to go around.
How do you go around?
Well, I'm not sure where you'd be coming from.
I believe what her question is will the road be physically completely shut down at Jake's? Or will she be able to continue on Route 5 South to access the hotels or Bob's Service Center and
Oh,
things
yeah.
like that?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we're
Sorry.
talking about an emergency under the bridges.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
so right now, there's no planned closure of US 5. Should something happen that none of us in this room can necessarily predict right now, whether it be related to the construction or an accident underneath from basically that one intersection to the other intersection, where no businesses are in between there anyways. Something were to happen and we can't physically traverse through there, then there's what all these other alternate routes would be. So I don't think that anyone would be prevented from getting anywhere. They just might have a 5 or 10 minute detour from a
And we
30
would set
second.
up officers to guide people. So again, last resort.
But due to the volume that exists on US 5, I mean, it was very important for V-Trans to not close US 5 at all. And actually, I mean, from a construction standpoint or anything else like that, the weekends would go, obviously, as you can imagine, much smoother, easier if we would do that. But the importance level to you folks, I imagine, and to the state, we've planned around that, so.
A couple of questions that I have. First of all, it appears that there's been some alteration in the timing of the light at Sykes Avenue and Route 5. And from the hours of about 4:30 PM to about 6 PM, there's a dramatic increase of traffic trying to get through that light and taking a considerable amount of time. I work right at that intersection basically, and I've noticed a lot of people starting basically at Gateway's Car Wash are turning Sykes Avenue into 2 lanes heading towards Route 5, taking a right and then turning a U-turn in front of Evans Mart, which is just asking for an accident to happen at some point. And timing-wise, I've seen that it's faster to actually turn right and not try and go down Sykes Avenue, go down Lower Hyde Park through the residential neighborhood and come out at Evans that way as well. So is there any plan to alter that timing light so that there's a little bit more time to get off of Sykes Avenue and onto Route 5 so that we don't have such a dramatic backup and alteration of the traffic flow there? That's the first question.
Jeremy, let me answer that. Right now, what it is that the signals weren't all put, we just have them turned on today. And all those signals, the temporary signals are looped in to the Sykes signal, the signal light there now. So when that backs up there, those other signals will automatically turn. So you should see a big difference after this evening here. After all, they're all.
Today, when I left work today at 5 o'clock, all the lights were up and running. And I came out basically by McDonald's, or I exited by the Comfort Inn.
Okay.
And said in my mind, okay, there's a red pickup truck with a snowmobile, I'm gonna look and see where it is. I then turned right, I went down Lower Hyde Park, circled around, came back around, and was at that intersection before the pickup truck made it to the light.
Okay, something that we can look into on the timing of the signals. I think it was all figured in on the loops that were put in, and if there's need to be adjustments to that, that's something
How
that
long
we
have
can
you
do.
been experiencing this stuff?
For the last couple of weeks, I would say, 2 or 3 weeks. Basically, as soon as the construction started, I saw folks out there working near where the light controls are.
Yeah.
And ever since then, it's been a much shorter green coming off of Sykes Avenue. And as a result, 4:30, when the banks start closing and things like that, the post office has a shift change, and boom, it's a gridlock till about 6 o'clock, trying to turn left off of either Beswick Drive or coming out of the Comfort Inn.
We have a traffic engineer coming down this week to look at the timing of all the lights. So, we've noted this, and he's going to, make adjustments where necessary to all the lights to get them running the best they can. It isn't gonna be as good as it was before, so it's gonna be.
Well, yeah, of course.
a little, But he's scheduled to come down, I think, Thursday.
Yeah, Thursday, I'll make sure he knows about the afternoons. I know what you mean, where I seen it back up
Yeah.
down Sykes Avenue. But
And
we-
then
we
my
haven't
other
changed-
question is, if you're gonna take out that slip ramp, as you call it, and leave it out permanently, that's forcing a lot of traffic into one intersection now instead of two. And I've noticed, because lucky me, I live right on Route 5, so I'm really looking forward to the weekend that it closes. I've noticed that folks that are trying to come out of the VA and turn left at that intersection are already being backed up because they're having to wait for all of the traffic that normally would be using that slip ramp. So has there been any thought to keeping that light there permanently?
Well, the town did a study, and they did study that, and the recommendation was not to have a light. And that is basically up to the town of Hartford when they do their Route 5 project. If, it's deemed necessary, then they could add that to the project. But we just went off the plan that was brought forward by the town and put a temporary signal in. So, the answer is, there always could be, but it's the town will bring that forward in their project.
Is there anyone from the town here?
Well, I only see one person from the town here, but I'm not sure if he's the person.
I'm not the right person to talk to.
Shame that person's not here, but all right.
But you know how town government works, so,
Oh, yes.
I had the same thought, and when this came up, we stuck to the town plan, and, like I said, they can make adjustments moving forward based on what's, happening now. Yes.
Hi, I live on the south side of this. My plan has been to just use the VA cutoff road and Route 4 and come out by 25,000 gifts. This incentive ever. And
Well, thank you for that, by the way.
and go left. Now, that can sometimes be a challenge trying to get across that. Has anyone thought about the number of local people that may just be taking alternate secondary roads until this whole thing is done and avoiding you completely?
Right.
And trying to come off of that, or do I need to continue down over and come in on Maple Street to the lights down by the grocery store, et cetera, and not try to get off at 25,000 gifts and make a left? Do you expect that the traffic is gonna be backed up so that we're not gonna be able to get off? There'll be so many of us using that as an alternate, or not?
It's hard to expect that,
Okay.
so I think we just have to, communicate with each other, communicate with Chris, and just see what's going on so that we can, try to react. But a lot of it's going to be, what works best for each person. So maybe taking a slightly different route or leaving at a different time gets you better access, and I hope that's what happens.
Now, when would you think, if it did back up, when would you think, like time-wise, it would be?
Well, I come in from, I think I recognize you from the other year in Woodstock in a bridge.
Uh-oh. How do you recognize it?
I come down from Woodstock, so I get to 25,000 gifts about 5 o'clock, 5:10, and it can be pretty busy right through there if you're trying to go left down into downtown White River.
So you're talking 5:10 in the morning or night?
Night,
Okay.
no, at night. So that it gets pretty busy if you're trying to go across, because everybody's coming down that long and they're going, you don't know what speed really, and you don't know whether they're gonna go straight or they're really gonna turn left, and sometimes they don't. So it gets a little difficult, and I'm just thinking with everything that's gonna be backing up, maybe, I don't know if anybody thought about, please no, that could be an issue.
Well, something we can definitely look at. Personally, I haven't thought of it, but it's not to say that we couldn't look at it and put a UTO there at certain times of the day, if we
Yeah,
think it's gonna be.
I'm just, throwing that out because I've been talking with some other local women, and we're all thinking maybe we just use some side streets the whole way and access the post office down through South Main Street. Not even bother the intersection.
That's what I would do, because I don't even want to risk it. I mean, I don't even like turning that way now, because you can't see that well. People come down the hill, so I'd say, get around any way you can. Don't avoid, where you want to go because of it, but.
So, if there were an emergency in that area, is there a plan to get the vehicles that need to address that emergency through that section quickly? I mean, there's a lot of hotels there, and, if there were like something, that we needed attention right away, like a fire or someone's having a heart attack, is there a plan to like get emergency vehicles?
Yeah, we've met with the emergency service providers extensively over the last year.
Yeah.
And so they're all aware and they know, which way they should be going to get through the work zone. If there's an emergency, they get access like they do now. People would have to pull over.
Okay.
The weekends of, they know when the closures are coming. We've communicated again. Rita's helped us a lot with that. And, they actually thought I was overkill on what I was presenting, but they weren't worried about, conducting their business.
Right. It's good to know.
I mean, I guess there's some EMT folks here. Are you worried?
I'm from Cross River, so no.
He's not worried?
We're not particularly worried, especially, from the hotel side.
Yeah.
There's plans in place, and usually, in years past, if they hear us coming quite a ways away, and they always make do for us. As far as responding to the downtown area, we can come down via Cutoff Road, take Route 4, and it's actually quicker than going down through where the construction zone is anyway. So we just know from here on out, if we're going into town, we'll come down 4, and if it's above the bridge, then we'll come that way. And you won't notice a time and difference
All right, good.
at all, really.
Thank you. Okay, well, if there's no other questions, it doesn't mean you can't ask them. You could write to Jill, you could write to any one of us and ask us questions. We'd be happy to answer them.
So I have one more.
Okay.
On your slideshow, your presentation, you had like maps, like of like alternative routes. Can we have a copy of those? Those are great.
Yep, they're on I think Jill's made some fact sheets.
Okay,
And there's one dedicated to traffic.
this one.
We
Just
had,
for the hotel guests, that's good. So it'd be
well,
nice to hang out.
yes, one of the things we talked about was maybe making something special for the hotel guests.
Yeah.
And I will be in touch with you about that. The challenge of 4 different detour routes, I think, on one piece of paper was a little daunting.
Yeah.
But I think we did manage to get them all on this page.
All right.
But, I do want to follow up with the hotels so that, you have what you need for your guests.
Yeah, yeah.
And there are extras here.
Okay, I heard
It's
you
also
say
on the
that.
website. This is
Oh, you-
also on the website and can be
Alright.
downloaded,
All right.
I think.
So a lot of the concerns that I've heard of local businesses, which obviously is going to have somewhere between a moderate and a huge impact depending on what you're doing. If we start seeing or experiencing lots of travel being cut off because of that, or backups, who's the go-to person on this list? So we don't have to call 12 people.
We could start with the resident engineer. You know, he's boots on the ground.
Okay?
And he has an office in that building on the second floor.
But I also got 3 jobs I'm overseeing.
But it'll get to me and,
Yeah.
you know,
And if you see something that you can't get a hold of them, obviously call the town and we can get a hold of Chris or Kristen or Ron, or one of us will get a hold of them.
you know, and there's gonna be changes to traffic. It is gonna be more difficult to get around this summer. Okay, well, no other questions. Feel free to ask privately if you'd like to. And I just want to thank you all for coming. Appreciate your interest in the project.